So a different video this week. I thought I'd try something new. I want to do a review of somebody else's review of their time spent aboard the Silent 55 in Mallorca, which is our demo boat. We've been using it for sea trials and charters and things out of the Med. So La Sailing Vagabonde, that I'm sure you've heard of before, is a great channel, has a huge following. They did a review of their week on board the boat with Kate and Nate, who are also a YouTube kind of influencer couple that are familiar with the boats. And the four of them, plus a kid and the captain, spent some time on board and gave their real life experiences and what their thoughts were on the boat. So here it goes. Here's my review of their review of the Silent 55.
Today is a really exciting day. We're packing up our apartment here in Barcelona. We've been here for, what, 3 or 4 days? Today's an exciting day because we're hopping on a flight.
So I'm going to watch this video at the same time as it's playing here and try and stitch this all together. Now, let me say from the get-go, I've never met these guys before. This review isn't meant to deter from any of their opinions on board the boat. There were a couple of mistakes that they made on the details, which is fine. But it's important to remember that doing these videos is incredibly difficult, and these guys have done a great job. So I'm going to mention a couple of mistakes, but overall I think it's a fantastic video. They clearly had a great time on board. They are a true sailing couple. They're building a 60-foot trimaran. They're die-hard sailors, want to do round-the-world cruises and trans-Pacifics, transatlantics. So they represent probably about 1% of the boating community. And kudos to them. That's amazing that they're doing that stuff. But that gives you an idea of their looking at this boat through that lens. So it's important to remember, it's not a fair comparison to compare a sailboat to a silent yacht. So they mention it a couple of times in the video, but like I said, it's incredibly difficult to do these videos to begin with.
We just went on and are still currently editing the videos to share with you guys. They'll be dropping next week and I cannot wait for you to see. Anyway, we couldn't think of a better way to end our European trip than catching up with some of our favourite
5 years. That's not an easy thing.
They've been travelling the world for 7 years now, and they're an absolute
power fast forward some of this.
They're always doing some insanely awesome challenge together.
It's not all
my goodness.
that relevant, all of it.
It's so spacious. We are in for a...
So, in this video, I'm going to break it down into segments, which is a little bit different for us. The first one, I'm going to give you the specifications of the vessel. Then we're going to walk around and give you just our first impressions and some sort of negatives and positives that we get, like, immediately.
Even
we're going to do a
videos
solar-only propulsion experiment. So we're going to see how fast we can
from
go
doing
just the solar
fraction
power.
of what these guys
whether
have
or
done.
not I
I
think
feel
this
a pain
boat
trying to
is
edit all of this
good to
together.
sail around the world.
I must say, it is silent. It really is. The quiet Yacht 55.
Given this is a solar-powered boat, you may be wondering why we're filling this baby up. Simply put, we're going to calculate from a full tank how much, if any, fuel we use during this 7-day voyage.
So that there that they were just looking at is the tiller arm. It's a digital tiller. That is on this particular boat, and it's important to remember that this is the Silent 55. This particular boat was never Silent Yachts designed from the ground up anyway. It was an existing hull mold that they could get some early production slots out of so that they could launch boats, learn from the feedback from the clients, and put all of that information into the development of the Silent 60. So there's a couple of differences between this boat and the newer boats that they're launching. They don't build the 55 anymore, it's been discontinued. Step up in the salon, the size of the solar panels, the beams, the lengths of the boat, draft, efficiency, everything is is different in this boat compared to the ones that are being built and sold now. One of them being this tiller arm. This is a digital version of a wheel. Basically, the days of having cables and chains going from the wheel to the rudders are kind of gone now. There aren't really any modern boats that are built that way unless it's a special request. So this tiller arm works so that the slightest turn of the tiller arm, so an inch one way or an inch the other, represents 2 or 3 turns of the wheel. So it's just a more simple way of steering the boat. However, I completely understand some people like the feel of a wheel. They can install it if you really want.
Who are we? Well, my partner and I have been sailing around the world for the past nearly decade. We'd stopped counting, but we probably would have sailed well over 50,000 nautical miles. And if you've got time, go and check those videos out. We have no affiliation with this company, and I'm just interested in giving people that are watching just the best information that I can.
All right, Riley, how much does this vessel cost?
$3.4 million.
What's the length?
55 feet.
What's the weight?
32 tonne.
The size of the batteries?
208 kilowatts.
You got a good memory. The size of the engines?
Dual 200 kilowatt engines.
How much does she draw?
1 metre.
Cool.
Which is very good.
Yeah, that's what we draw on the Vagabond.
I'm often drawing trimarans. These are the goddamn shiniest windows I've ever seen in my life.
Let's get to some of the fun parts. We're going to talk about the positives and the negatives of this boat. Most noticeably, as soon as I stepped foot on this boat, one of the positives was really just how big it is. This back deck here with the saloon is kind of really open. And
so here's one of the things I was mentioning about the difference between the 55 and the 60s. So the salon of the 60s is much larger, the windows are bigger, ceiling height's higher. This step up that you see underneath her there, that's now gone. It's all just one flush deck. And also the helm station has been pushed forwards. Now on one of the earlier 55s, there was it was a forward master, so you had a lot of cabinetry at the forward end of that salon, and you didn't have that front exit. That made the windows very narrow on the forward end of that boat. Here you can see that they're about the same size all the way around, and on the 60s they're even larger. So it'd be real interesting to get these guys aboard a
really open, and there's even full-size fridges. It just feels like it could be your house or apartment. Everything's kind of got a place. Second positive is the water supply. We pretty much have unlimited water on this boat. We have such a big battery bank that we can afford to make water any time of the day to do washing. They also have a dishwasher. We've been able to have hot showers after we go swimming and not really worry about how much water we're using. It's been luxurious. That is such a privilege to not have to worry about the water. Third positive, this boat really is silent when you're just using electric propulsion. Like, we really could be sailing right now, to be honest. In weather conditions like this, there is not a noise. It's incredible. The first negative is going to be the fact that we found it quite uncomfortable when underway in rough conditions.
There's just cucumber in weird places.
This is probably for a couple of reasons. The first being that because it doesn't have sails, there's no force kind of picking you up and making you a bit lighter and carrying you along the ocean. It's quite a narrow boat with thick hulls.
So one of the things that was changed in the newer design is the refrigerators here. So on these 55s, the doors open too easily. So we did find on a couple of occasions one of those doors would come open in rough weather. So that's been modified. But as she says, the power boats in general aren't as sturdy through bad weather as sailing boats are. simply because you don't have that keel underneath you. You don't have 3 or 4 tons worth of weight down, 8 foot underneath the hull. But you also only draw 3 to 4 feet, so you can get much closer to the areas that you want to than you can with a sailboat. It's just a trade-off. You buy the boat for the purpose that you want. These guys are used to doing a lot of very, very cool sailing dagger boards, things like that on there, sailing catamaran. You don't have that with a power catamaran. It is an interesting difference that they're feeling going from sailing to power, but there's certain trade-offs that you just need to make.
In the water, but it really feels like our boat moves better through the water with less bouncing around. The second negative, which I mean, it's not really a negative, but it kind of is.
No. For me, this is a huge negative.
There's no helm. The helm is actually these 2 buttons here.
So that's the bow thruster and the stern thruster. So they have nothing to do with the rudders. The rudder is controlled with a tiller arm that I mentioned earlier on. That's actually just to her right-hand side here, and I think the captain points it out in a second. But just to clarify, that's the bow thruster and the stern thruster.
Which is very
nothing to do with a helm or a wheel, or doesn't control the rudders at all.
So babe, you're on a crossing and you get some water in the electrics. Now what do you do?
Yeah, is there no backup helm, Mike?
There's a backup autopilot, yes.
Backup autopilot?
Yeah, this is the thrusters. No, these are the thrusters, and this is the backup pilot. So it's completely independent.
But what if
what if lightning strikes? Kaput?
Everything is kaput, but this one is not on, so hopefully it should stay.
Okay.
I like to have a helm. I'm sure that they would do it for you if you asked. Like a wheel that's connected to wire that is connected to a rudder.
Yes, but if you have no electric and the power has failed, you don't even have propulsion. You're dead.
So just to clarify on that, there is a get home safe mode where you can power the electric motors for the propulsion direct from the generator. So if something does happen to the inverter system, or something catastrophic like that does happen, then there is a way of propelling the boat without going through the batteries. It's not a normal running procedure. It would require throwing breakers and setting things up specifically for that purpose. There is instructions with the owner's manuals on how to do that. But going back to the point without having the wheel, the days of having a wheel and blocks and chains and things with a cable running to the rudder is kind of an archaic method. It doesn't really happen anymore. Everything is a digital signal from the helm, which has a potentiometer which sends a signal back to the actuators on the rudders. Certainly as a backup, it is a good safety blanket to know that at the end of the day you could have a wheel that's connected with a chain or something to the rudders, but you just don't really see that anymore in modern boats. It's also worthwhile noting about the potential for a lightning strike, just due to the profile of these boats, and you see some images of the boat at an anchorage later on. It's almost always the lowest lying vessel in the marina or in the anchorage. So although it is a real life potential, it could always happen in certain scenarios, but it is very unusual to have a lightning strike on a boat like this. Lightning will typically go for the tallest things, such as a mast, which is probably why these guys are concerned with it. It is a real problem when it does happen, so I understand them being concerned about it. Less likely on our boats.
So the third negative is probably, and this isn't important again, but all of the hatches, none of them are facing forwards, so that means you can't really get a nice sea breeze to come in, and I find them to be oddly placed. They're not placed where your head is, so if you have the blanket on and it starts to rain, that's what happened to me, you can't feel
So a difference between sailing folks and power folks. I think power people are generally would expect to use the air conditioning all the time anyway, and we certainly have the power to run all of those house loads. On a sailing boat, similar to when you used to get the old flutes that sat up on deck that would actually rotate, you would angle them towards the direction that the breeze is coming. So with a lot of sailboats, you have these forward facing hatches so that it can catch the breeze and bring it in. Of course, the problem with having it like that when you're underway or when you're moving and it's raining is having that hatch open in the direction that you're traveling forwards. All of the water or anything that's the boat is going into is going to go straight in the hatch. Again, a difference between sailing folk and power folk.
So we've got a speed curve here which is instructive. You could go at 6 knots, and then if you go at 8 or 10, you can see how much more power you're using. So it's actually really interesting, and it's the same thing that we've got to deal with Ocean Vault. 4 knots at least, we're super efficient there. 6, we're starting to lose a bit. 8 is crazy. 10, it's just insane. 12, and you might as well just have a nuclear power plant on board.
So he's exactly right. The faster you go, the more energy you burn. And there is a threshold around that 8 or 9 knot speed where that power curve really starts to get quite vertical. The 55 is based on the older drivetrain. Now we have different batteries, different solar panels, different electric motors, and even different propellers. Now we're using carbon fiber propellers, which are much more efficient through the water. They reduce a considerable amount of turbulence through the water. They're much lighter, so the weight of the props sitting on the aft support is almost zero. So it actually improves the overall drivetrain by something close to 15%. So I have a new power curve that I'll pop a picture of it up here on the screen, and you can see the difference between the old drivetrain and the newer drivetrain, which I think is in red. So around 5 knots, you're looking somewhere around 10 to 12 kilowatts on the propulsion.
Who could foil the longest? What's happened, Riley?
Oh, the engine just conked out.
The engine stopped.
Very normal.
But it's a Honda
Very
4-stroke engine.
Happens all the time.
They should go for the silent tender, that's the problem.
You just pull the line as tight as it'll go. Put your hand through here. Pull it
Is that how we
through.
say so?
And then you just repeat.
And Bob's your uncle.
Bob's your uncle and Betty's your aunt.
So one thing which I think most people don't understand when they're discussing electric powered yachts or solar powered yachts is how much power you can actually get from the sun with the solar panels. So we've got 15 kilowatts of solar panels.
So that's I think the one main inaccuracy that I wanted to point out in the video. So this is the Silent 55, as I mentioned. The solar array on the Silent 55 is 9.6 kilowatts. It's not 15.5 kilowatts. On the Silent 60s and the Silent 62s, it's a little under 17 kilowatts. So when he's talking about the energy produced through this, it's only maximum that each panel combined, their maximum electrical output is 9.6 kilowatts total. So I think they talk about there being 5 or so kilowatts that it's generating, which is actually pretty impressive. That the panels are working with a big film of salt on them, and that's one of the key things here is to every day, you just, either you or your crew, spray some water on it, give it a quick brush, which you can do from the deck. It'll take you maybe 5-10 minutes tops to do that, but it greatly increases the production of your solar panels. So the numbers that he's going to be quoted now, just bear in mind, total array is a maximum 9.6.
And what we're going to do is it's not perfect because it's just difficult to read, so we're going to do the best that we can to use only the power of the solar panels to propel the boat forwards. So the inputs aren't perfectly precise, so we're having to do our best estimate here. So we've turned side onto the sun so that the solar panels are receiving as much sun as we can have. We're heading downwind, so we're going to put the motors in neutral, and I'm going to subtract the drift from the ultimate speed that we get. So that will be taken into consideration.
So there you can see the amount of salt spray that's on the panels. This is a great test that he's doing here. It's very smart to speak to the concerns of a lot of people considering electric boats. So I commend him on doing this test and even deleting out the factor for drift. It is a great test.
So we've got roughly 5 kilowatts coming in, and we're using roughly 5 kilowatts going forwards, and we're going at 4.4 knots.
So 5 kilowatts of electrical generation out of a maximum rated 9.6, I think is a great number. So the Silent 60s and the 62s have 70% more solar capacity than this boat that they're on now. So you can do the math yourself on how much you'd be able to generate. Plus the boat is about 15% with the new drivetrain, about 15% more efficient on the drive. So you can see how much more speed you would get for the same amount of electrical usage, but you're generating more power at the same time. We will ultimately do the similar test, may even get these guys back on board one of the new yachts and see how much they prefer that to what they're on now.
So now we are with the sun on the side, and we can go to neutral.
We've set our drift now. It's going to be about 1 knot. So it would be safe to say that we could subtract that 1 knot off the previous 4.4. So according to this very rough guide, we would have been using 5 kilowatts from our 15 kilowatts of solar panels to go 3.4 knots, which is actually, that's much faster than I thought it would be, because this is what, a 30-ton boat? That's actually, I think that most people would go, oh wow, that's not very fast, but to me, like, you just simply using the solar panels, I would have thought 1.5 knots or 2, so we're much higher than that, so that's actually pretty good. It's not practical to be going around the world like that, especially when the sun goes down, but it's we haven't taken into consideration the batteries at all there. So I'd say that's a massive win.
So we've had 3 or 4 boats do transatlantics. The first sort of beta test boat, the 46, which was really the precursor to all of these, that's been around the world a couple of times. I mean, they've done over 70,000 miles, I believe, on that boat, and it's still going around the world. The 64s, which were the model prior to the 55, at least one of those have done a transatlantic, and then also one of these 55s has done it as well, and I believe 2 of the 64s have done transatlantic. So is it possible? Yes, absolutely. In boats that have a far less of a capable drivetrain than the 60s that we're building and launching now, or the 60s and the 62s.
The solar-only experiment looked promising, but we're yet to talk about if it's possible to do an ocean crossing in this vessel. I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, how would this thing move when the sun goes down and there's no more solar? Anyway, we arrived at another beautiful anchorage in Mallorca and celebrated this relaxing moment in time we've found ourselves in, with no sails to hoist and put away, and no need to keep a constant watch for squalls or coral heads, to a degree. Morning, mate. Hey.
Good morning. Everybody awake? Yes, this guy is awake already.
Yeah. It's the most beautiful morning. The water is so calm today, and we're on our way to Ibiza, which is 75 nautical miles from Mallorca, where we just were. We left at 5 a.m. this morning. We woke up to the sound of the anchor coming up, and it's so different being on another boat. If this was our boat and I heard the anchor going off, I would know Riley would need a hand, and I'd probably get up and at least make him a coffee, but because this isn't my boat and I know Mike's got it, I kind of just laid in bed this morning and yeah, watched the sunrise. Mike's also made croissants this morning and some bread. Yeah, it should be a really fun day on the water. Alright, can you take this boat across an ocean and take your sunnies off?
You can, they have. It's not really what these boats are built for, but I don't think that's what Lagoons, Leopards and Fontaine Pajots are built for either. These guys fly a kite out the front, which I would be a little hesitant to do. I think pulling it back in might be very difficult in a squall, but I haven't done it, so you know, maybe it's great. I don't think that it probably would be, but it should be said, that's not really what these boats are designed for, but they can do it. You'd be running the generator pretty much the whole way.
So I disagree with that. The numbers that we have as far as the consumption versus the power generation, certainly you would have to run the generator some of the time if you want to do a speed over 4.5 to 5.5 knots. So he's right. You probably wouldn't want to do the whole crossing at that speed. But you can certainly do it at a slightly higher speed and just integrate the generator. The key is that there's only one combustion engine on board, which is quieter than the sound of the water as you're moving through. Anyway, as opposed to having 4 engines, which is 2 main engines plus the 2 generators, and all of the maintenance and the drama and the fuel consumption things that go for that. So for a longer crossing, which, let's face it, is a small percentage of the population, you would need to, or likely you would need to run it. However, having said that, the 46 did numerous ocean crossings and never even touched the generator. In fact, they ran the generator for I think 20 minutes every month just to keep fuel running through it so that it didn't seize up. So it certainly can be done. It's a matter of speed. But even if you wanted to go at sailing speed, sort of the 7 to 8 knot speed, that can still be done in this with relying less on the generator than you would do with the batteries. So it can be done, but you know, it's a difficult thing to critique their guys' review because they did a great job. I mean, they've been on this boat for 5 minutes. They have no, you know, knowledge about the newer models or even the progression of things. So I'm not correcting these guys to criticize what they're doing. I think this is a fantastic video. In fact, I'm going to put a link up to it here so that you guys can watch it. And like I said, let's get them on the 60 and see how they think.
So once you've crossed, say, the Atlantic, you're going to be in the Caribbean, and then it's not going to be a super pleasant boat to be aboard when it's blowing 20 knots all up and down those Windward Islands. And getting those waves on a beam on this boat would be very uncomfortable. So what you're going to want to do is get it up to the Bahamas kind of as quick.
Certainly the Windward Islands, hence the name, would be you know, a lot of water movement and a lot of swell to have to deal with. But head to the Leeward Islands is the reason for the name there, and also BVI. We've had these boats around Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, British Virgin Islands. It's beautiful. Yeah, once you get further out into the ocean, it would be uncomfortable on any boat, other than would be more comfortable on a sailboat with a big keel under you.
Quickly as possible, and then you could start playing games and running the generator less and less, and that would be quite fun. Or you stay in the Mediterranean, and I'm not sure if I've mentioned that yet, but that's exactly what this boat is all about, in my opinion. I don't know what they're marketing it for, I don't, but that's how I would be using it.
I mean, it gets pretty rough in the Med. I think some of the rough seas that I've ever been in is going between Nice and Corsica. It gets pretty nasty there. I mean, for me, these boats, East Coast US, Bahamas, going up to New England, Martha's Vineyard, and then down to the more northern Caribbean islands. That for me is a great use of this boat, and certainly around Greek islands and things in the Med, you know, where these guys are now, the Balearics. That's beautiful as well. But I think you could see yourself on the east coast of the US, Bahamas, and Caribbean, and be quite happy for a number of years.
We made it to Ibiza. Nate's flying the drone. There's a pirate ship over here, and super yachts everywhere, obviously.
So quickly pointing out here, as you can see, there's plenty of things that would get hit by lightning before a boat with a air draft of about 17 feet, which is what the 55 and the 60s are roughly. But I think a lot of other things will get struck first before the silent would.
But it really feels like we're in Ibiza now. It was really funny, as soon as we dropped anchor, Riley started playing this Ibiza playlist, and it's all like DJ hilarious songs that I probably listened to 10 years ago. So we're all just busting out in the saloon and made some strawberry daiquiris. And Nate's gonna go for a flight board. I might jump on as well.
These
I've
things
had
are
one go at it, and we're actually gonna have a competition.
Very difficult. So these
The
guys
winner,
do much better
I don't know
than
what the
I
winner
did
gets,
last
but
time
the
I
idea
tried
is you have
this.
to go around the whole of this
I did a
boat
lot of
foiling, which is really hard. Hard to
eating
turn
water,
and
that's for
stay
sure.
up, obviously. So yeah, if you guys want to actually see who wins the competition, make sure you go and check out Cara and Nate's video from this trip. They're going to put it on their video.
There won't be nothing but big old hearts dancing in our eyes. There won't be nothing but...
Okay, we're back on land. I thought that I would use all of the numbers, so these numbers are going to be coming at you thick and fast, of our trip that we did as a bit of a case study. So we were out there for 7 days and 6 nights. The kilowatts generated by the solar panel.
So that's, remembering that's at 9.6 total capacity there, not the 15.5 that they quoted it as.
Panels, 392. Kilowatts generated by the generator, 720. Generator runtime, 12 hours. Generator consumption is 13.3 litres per hour. The kilowatts used in total over the 6 days and 7 nights is 260. Miles travelled, 175 nautical miles we did at an average speed of 7 knots. And the fuel that we used, 208 litres. So to give you an example, Elena and I on our 48-foot sailing catamaran would use 208 litres in 3 months. So different boat, much larger boat, more people on board, different project, but that's the power of sailing.
So also 7 knots cruising around everywhere is kind of a fast speed for the 55. As I mentioned, the 55 is 70% less solar capacity than the 60s are. I don't know what this would shake out to on the numbers with it. If it was done on the 60 rather than the 55, it would be interesting, like I said, to get these guys back for another trip and see what they were able to do on the 55. But talking about how much fuel you would use on a sailboat as well, with most sailboats, even when you're under sail, you still have to have the generator running. These guys are pretty smart and have been doing it for a long time, so I'm sure they have a big inverter bank that they can run all of their house systems off of a generator, off of the batteries, and I'm sure they're going to have some type of solar integration into the boat that they're designing. I doubt that would also run air conditioning on the interior of their boat as well. Maybe it would, I don't know. But when you're comparing the silent yachts that are heading in a direction regardless of what the wind is doing, as opposed to sailing to the same destination, of course a sailboat has to sail to the direction of the wind and jibe and tack. So it would likely take them much longer of a journey to get to the same destination, whereas on the silent yacht, you're just going straight from A to B. Now, these guys clearly love sailing, so they'll probably turn around and say, well, yeah, that we wanted sail to the wind and tack and jibe and do all of that, and that's great. I love sailing. I did my captain's license on a sailboat many moons ago, but it's not, I guess my point is, it's not a direct comparison between the two. If you're sailing everywhere and are purposefully not running an engine and you're only running the generator on the rare occasion, then sure, you could do that same amount of fuel burn in the 2 or 3 months, like you said. But these guys were on a charter. They're only on there for a couple of days. They're going specific trips from A to B, and the captain is trying to get them there in a generally fast time, because when you're on a charter, you want to be at the anchorage and you want to be enjoying the location. You don't want to be all your time at sea. So when you actually own these things and run them yourselves, when you're doing those transits between islands, you're probably going to slow down and just sail the boat to its efficient speed rather than trying to get there as fast as possible. I guess a difference of opinion in how you get from A to B, and characterizing their charter isn't a direct relationship to these guys living on board their boat for months at a time and purposefully trying to be as efficient as possible.
In sum, I think what I've been doing is comparing this vessel, the Silencio 55, to a sailboat, which I really and truly feel like it's inferior to in every way that I consider important when I'm thinking about a vessel that I'd like to circumnavigate in. You can get a really, really good sailboat for 3.4 million euro. I'm talking like a H&H 60. You probably couldn't get a gunboat for that price, but you could get two Rapidos where you would have circumnavigated before the silent yacht had gone out of the Mediterranean and tried to cross the Atlantic.
So again, there's a finite number of people that are ever going to do a circumnavigation, even going for 3 or 4 day crossing. There's minuscule number of people that would do that. If I was looking to do a circumnavigation, I would be looking at a much different boat to the boat that I would want to sail around the Bahamas and the Caribbean in for a number of months. So it's not quite fair to look at sailboats and compare it in that way. However, he does have some great points. It is valuable if you're looking to do this type of cruising that he's considering. I think he's got some great points, but I don't think you can look at the silent yachts through that specific lens, only looking at doing boating across the world and doing ocean crossings for for the majority of the time you're going to be on board, which for most people just isn't the case.
But that's completely unfair. They are not fair comparisons. This boat is probably more aimed at people who aren't really interested in sailing, and they're more thinking of a greener type of motor yacht. So motorboats, there are some motorboats out there on the water doing science, breaking ice, and just doing incredible things on the water. There are many plastic super yachts out there owned by wankers, probably from Miami, that are just, you guys know me, they're not my jam, man. So yeah, I don't like them. Now, this vessel, what I think it is perfect for is cruising around the Mediterranean. In summer, probably, which is when everyone else is cruising around the Mediterranean. So in the Med, you'll often find yourself in a marina, and it's kind of perfect, right? You just plug back into power, you fill up your batteries again before you head off. It's magic. And I really do love this company. I love Silent Yachts. I love what they're doing, and I really mean that. I was extremely surprised with the 3.4 knots of boat speed with only 5 kilowatts of power coming in from the sun during the solar-only propulsion experiment. And I really feel like that speaks to the efficiency of the engines and makes me incredibly optimistic about this type of technology for the future and just boating in general moving forwards. I wasn't expecting it to be anywhere near that. So that's a massive win for these guys. A company like this needs to exist in the marine industry, and they're out there doing it, and I think that's brilliant. I would recommend that people come and charter this vessel. Come and check it out for yourselves. We'll have some links in the description. And the other thing that I think is worth exploring would be investing in these type of technologies, and maybe even Silent Yachts in particular. Ocean Vault, maybe some of the battery companies. I think the industry is headed this way, we all know that. And yeah, thank you for listening to my review. I hope it was okay.
So he made some great points there. I think it is important to get on board one of these boats and experience it for yourself. We try to do as many sea trial events and open houses and things as we can. We are going to have more boats in the charter fleet for 2023, and also the latest models, the 60s and the 62s, the Tridecks should be available for charter then as well. And he's right, it is a developing technology. From the boat that he was on then, we've come leaps and bounds in the capabilities and the technology, from solar panels to the actual drivetrain itself, the batteries, the electric motors are different too. So we've come a long way from there to now, and he's right. It is an ever evolving product. There will never be a perfect boat. There will always be improvements that can be made, and that's what we're focused on as a company. But as far as getting on board the boats, testing it, seeing it, I think he's very right. That would be my strong recommendation as well. And look, it's difficult to go through this and do a review of their review. A lot of things I was saying might sound like critiquing them. It's not. I think they've done a fantastic video. I think it's an incredibly hard thing to do, to try and answer everybody's concerns and do it in a way that is 100% accurate. You're never going to be completely accurate, because the guys have spent 5 days on board and know, as much as they can do with the information that they receive. So I think it's a fantastic video that they've done. I think they captured the essence of the boat well. A couple of mistakes that I mentioned in there, but overall I think it's a very accurate, very good video. Like I said, I'll put a link to it in the description below, and I'm looking forward to hopefully getting on board one of the newer boats as and when we're able. So that was it. I probably rambled on a little bit too much. I'm very passionate about the product. I know its capabilities, and I know what the older versions have done to prove themselves. I mean, the original boat, the original beta test boat, is still going around the world. And if that doesn't say anything, then I don't know what will. I've got other videos on the channel. I've got brochures and PDFs and presentations about the drivetrain and the fuel or the energy burn curve. So anything that you want, you can email me. My email address is pbell@silentyachts.na. The NA is for North America, .com. And I'll put that link or put that email address in the description down below as well. So that's it for me. Thank you. Let me know if I can help.